Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Gorilla Press Wrestling News and Commentary. We've got a special show for you today. Very, very special show for you today. This is going to be exciting, you guys. So, I wanted to do kind of I guess a something completely different. I've listened to other broadcasts. Other people, what they're talking about, what they're doing, and I haven't heard something that I've been thinking of for quite a while, and so I decided to put this show together. And I decided that I needed a little bit of help, and I can only do it with my buddies. Unfortunately, one of my buddies, we're just having too many technical difficulties, so we're gonna have to save him for next time. But I guarantee you, he has a lot to bring to the table. So I had to go to the next to the one guy that I had to have on here for absolutely for sure, no questions asked. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, if I didn't have him on for this particular show, it just wouldn't be right. I need his knowledge. I need my partner in crime. I'm having to bring him back. You guys, everybody, welcome back. My main man, Jon. Thank you so much for coming on to the Gorilla Press. Welcome back, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure it's your pleasure to have me on again. So it's okay.
Yeah.
Happy to be back.
Good. So, I haven't really, I guess, given you any kind of idea whatsoever about what this show is about.
No, you haven't.
Right?
Yeah, I have no idea what this show is about.
Yeah. So here is my goal, guys. My main goal for this entire thing was I wanted raw, uncensored. I wanted him to hear it at the exact same time you guys are going to hear it. What the topic of this show really is about. Why am I bringing Jon to the table here?
Wait, can I guess really quick?
Yes.
Is it about the Bella outfits on Bella's, or women uniforms or something like that?
Well, sort of.
Right. Okay.
Awesome. I definitely have a show set aside for tits and ass, but unfortunately, I decided that this show wasn't the one that I was going to do it with.
About Ms. and Mrs.?
No. So here we go. You ready for the title?
Sure.
All right. The title of this show is Wrestling's Future Lies in Wrestling's Past. So, I knew you were going to have that face. So, yesterday I was telling Jon about this show, and he basically says, are we going to compare old to new? No, not really. We do have to dive into the past. But the point of the past for this particular incident or this issue is actually going to be the starting point to be able to get to where we are currently in the wrestling world and where we're going to go in the future with the wrestling world. And this is kind of I really want to start it off like this. What made you a fan of wrestling in the first place? What got you into being a fan of wrestling? A real fan. Jon, what made you a fan? I know what made me a fan, but I want to know what made you a fan.
The characters. The characters made me a fan, and you had guys like Ric Flair and the Hulk Hogan's and all these flamboyant guys who drew me in, as a child and continued, from there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's the whole, Hulk Hogan, you know what I mean? Later, Sting was my man. You know, I mean,
Ricky
guys like that.
Steamboat.
Yes, you know what I mean. So, okay, so here's where I'm kind of at, right? So let's dive right into the nitty gritty on this, right? Let's go before WCW. Let's go before WWE. Okay, what was WCW before WCW? Well, it was basically NWA in a nutshell, right? I mean, am I right about that?
Yeah.
So NWA basically turns into WCW at some point. But here's where I'm getting at. At one point, there is a point in history, you guys, where wrestling became more than mainstream. It just, I mean, it was one of the biggest things running, period. And there was a point in time where guys like me, guys like John, guys like my buddy Brett that was going to be on the show, that became super fans, big time fans that just loved wrestling. And I want to get into that right now. So, obviously, some of you guys know about the territory days. And if you guys don't know what the territory days are, basically you had several territories all around the United States of America, Texas, New York, so forth, so forth, so forth. And they were very small wrestling promotions. You had them up in Canada, obviously Bret Hart, Stu Hart, that was their whole thing. You had Vince McMahon and Senior in New York City, so forth, so forth, so forth. And you had all these little tiny wrestling promotions all around the country, and everybody stayed in their lane. They never branched out. It wasn't like they wouldn't come to your town and put on a show. They might loan you a guy for a couple of nights, but that guy wasn't going to be signed to your territory. He was going to come back to his home territory. I mean, so far, am I on point, John?
Yeah, you are, straight on point right now.
Right. So, so here's the thing. Wrestling really wasn't huge. It was huge in those particular areas, in those small territories. The one spot in New York, the one spot in Texas. I don't know, that one little tiny spot that nobody cared about in Canada.
Oklahoma. Oklahoma, that was ran by Bill Watts.
Right, a huge territory. That was actually a big promotion. And so in those little areas where they put on those shows, that's where it was big. But to the rest of the nation, it really wasn't something that you would admit that you watched. It was more like, I mean, you had your stars, but here's the thing too. The belts back then meant everything. It meant the whole world. That's why you had guys hold it for not just months, but years. Right. Years. How long did oh man, that guy's such a doofus too. You know who I'm talking about.
Bob Backlund.
Bob. See what I mean? All I have to say is doofus, and you knew it was fucking Bob Backlund. So, I mean, how long did Bob Backlund hold that freaking belt? 5 years or something like that?
Almost 6 years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a totally different era, but what happened? What happened? So, you fast forward the timeline a little bit, right? Get out of the 70s, start dipping into the 80s, 83, somewhere around in that neck of the woods, right? 85 was the first WrestleMania. So, at the end of the, so you start looking at these guys, right? Most of these characters, the Hulk Hogan's, the Macho Man's, the LODs, Andre Giant, all these guys were freaking meatheads. They were just big old, bulky, muscular dudes that like to put oils all over their body and try to make to make a fake fight, look like it wasn't like they were trying to perform gay movements on each other and try to make a living. I mean, for God's sakes, if you go back and you listen to these videos or these interviews with, you know, even guys like Hogan, LOD, most of these guys were bouncers. They were gym rats trying to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Right. And they were basically working as bouncers, and then some fucking wrestler would step in and say, "Hey man, you're a pretty big bastard. Why don't you should get into fucking wrestling, man. You can make a good living." And then next thing you know, they drive down to their they pack up their shit and they drive down to the closest, most popular, you know, wrestling school there was, get the shit kicked out of them for a few months, go and, you know, then they'd get, you know, told,
you know
hey.
Do you know who trained people like LOD and Ravishing Rick Rude, and I know here's a no-namer, the Berserker and stuff like that? You know who trained those guys?
Who?
And yeah, you're right, Josh. They were all bouncers at one point, just like the women wrestlers today were all strippers at one point. No, but you know who trained those guys that became very, very popular and became household names? Do you know who that guy was?
Who?
It was a guy named Eddie Sharp in Minnesota.
Ah, yes.
Eddie Sharp.
Yes, yes,
he
Eddie Sharp.
Some of the best wrestlers.
Yeah, I mean, almost all of the fucking number one wrestlers in the 80s for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so, all right, so with that point, like, and then these guys, and then the way this would work is guys like Eddie Sharp would say, look, I think you're ready to do a match. That's the only way you're going to hone your skills more, is get out there and actually do a whole fucking match. I got this rink-a-dink fucking, you know, promotion over here. They're willing to give you a shot, and your name is Dickhead. You know, and then Dickhead goes and says, oh, my character is Dickhead. I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to wrestle. And then next thing you know, other big-time promoters would see him, and then they'd get boosted up into a bigger promotion, right? But most of these guys, they weren't really wrestling fans. They didn't follow the sport. They got into the sport because it was a paycheck that they weren't getting, and it was easy gym time.
And they got in by the looks, and the looks alone.
Yeah.
Because of
Hulk Hogan definitely didn't get in for his acting ability.
Huh?
Hulk Hogan definitely didn't get in because of his acting ability.
Oh, you talk about Mr. Nanny himself.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, but you know, these guys were big, bulky guys before they even got into the wrestling business. You know, and so these trainers or promoters, they see them in bars or clubs or working out at a gym, and they say, "Hey, you know, we think you have the look. We think we could train you to be a wrestler. Would you be willing to come on board?" And
the thing about it is where I'm getting at is this. These were the guys that helped establish the sport. So let's keep going, okay? What year was it that Vince McMahon takes over WWF?
1983. 1983.
Okay, so I'm spot on with my dates here. So 1983, Vince McMahon commandeers WWF from Vince McMahon Sr. He starts bringing in meatheads, starts bringing in these guys that were just absolutely fucking brutal, and then starts to do something that no other promoter has ever done before. He starts buying out promotions. He starts buying out territories.
You know, I don't know if you knew this or not. I don't know if too many people know this or not. But actually, when Vince McMahon Jr. started to do that, all the other older promoters were feeling really threatened. And a lot of them got together and actually were planning on ordering a hit out on McMahon.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, seriously.
That's brutal, isn't it?
True story. And because he was buying them all out, taking away all the wrestlers and buying them out and just, you know, ending what all they knew. And so, and at the time, Vince McMahon was in his late 30s, early 40s, so he's just a young kid, according to these other promoters who were in their 70s, 60s, 70s. So they really had it in for him. You know,
Yeah,
they did not.
I
like
could see
him
that
at all.
because a lot of these promoters were hard asses, man.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and so so anyway, where I'm getting at is you start moving up the ranks, and now Vince is actually starting to gain a little bit of momentum in terms of popularity with kind of the mainstream. He starts gaining some ground, you know, and next thing you know, 2 years later, you got a fucking WrestleMania coming on board, and it just fucking goes. I mean, I know it wasn't a term that was used back then, but it's a term used now. It went viral.
Well, you know what? Let's not forget about the very first WrestleMania, and I'm talking about Starrcade. That's pretty much what gave Vince McMahon his idea for WrestleMania, to have the biggest show of the year, showcasing the biggest names of the company.
Well, and then on top of that, Hulk Hogan was doing movies with fucking Rocky.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, doing movies with Mr. T, and Mr. T was coming in. I mean, they were gaining celebrities. They started getting TV time. Obviously, NWA had already had some TV time going for themselves. You know, but it wasn't anything what WWF was putting together. WWF was just, and if you guys don't know what WWF is, you're awfully fucking young. It stood for the World Wrestling Federation. That was the real WWE. By the way, they lost to a bunch of fucking animal rights activists. And caved to their fucking demands and lost the F and had to change it to an E. So for now,
which is why when they first changed it to WWE, they said the headline was "Get the F out."
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know if you remember that or not. But.
So I mean, so here's my thing. This is where I'm going with this. So we became a fan because of these big names, right? They built all of these huge names. You had your Ric Flairs, you had your fucking Stings, you had all these big guys in NWA. WWF had the Hulk Hogan's, the Macho Man Randy Savages, the Rick Rudes, you know,
Ricky
things
Steamboat,
that hell, Andre the Giant. They had Andre the Giant up until what, 1990?
Yeah, WrestleMania 6, 1990.
You know, and you know, so they had all these guys. So this is what I want to put out there. This is what I want people to start thinking about. This is 1986, okay? And I want to show you something, okay? So check this out. 1986 rosters for WWF and NWA. 1986, the WWF had 58 stars. NWA had 30 stars. That was their entire roster. 58 stars for WWF, 30 stars for NWA. What does that mean? Why am I telling you how many people is on that fucking roster? And I'm gonna tell you why. When you have a limited amount of people in the circle, okay? You can get around to all of those people over a period of time, but at the same time, now, okay, let me back up. Now, some of you guys will be like, well, Josh, some of those guys were tag teams. Get the fuck out of here, okay? They're still stars nonetheless. Not everybody on the tag team was popular. Hence Marty Jannetty. Who's now a raging alcoholic and a piece of shit. So, you can get around to all of these stars in a very short period of time. What does that mean? That means that
you want to really get down to the nitty gritty.
Well, what it means is familiarity, right? Like, you remember that guy clearly. You remember what he was about, everything, because you just saw him maybe a few months ago, maybe sooner, depending on how big of a star they really are. And you were able to get into these storylines a little bit quicker and a little bit better. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, I would say that you're partly wrong on that. The main thing back then was always about one thing and one thing only. You want to take a guess on what that is?
Telling a story.
Money.
Oh, of course it was money.
That's why WWF had so much more talent, because they were able to pay those guys what they wanted, or what those guys felt like that they were worth. NWA, they weren't able to do that because they were so small. They still had to pay big money to people like the Horsemen, Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, though, John. This is what I'm pointing out here. NWA's roster had game changers still sitting in their locker room. They had legends sitting in that locker room on the NWA the exact same year as the WWF had their legends.
But they were less because they were flocking to.
Well, that's not where I'm getting at. That's not where I'm getting at. I'm not talking about low numbers in terms of. Okay, let me say this. I'm not trying to compare their rosters. I'm not trying to say WWF was better than NWA because of this or this or this. What I'm trying to say is that there's a reason why we as fans were able to get into those rosters. Why we wanted to follow those rosters specifically. Because here's the thing. None of us would be watching wrestling if it wasn't for them.
Right.
I mean, is there a better way to put it?
No.
I mean, none of us would be fans if it wasn't for these two rosters right here. Remember, this is 1 year off of WrestleMania, so the roster for WWF is pretty damn close, minus maybe one or two jackasses. But the NWA roster, it was about the same as well. I mean, they really never really got much bigger than that. I want to fast forward now. Okay? I want to fast forward to a time when it all changed. Everything changed. I want to go to 1996. 10 years later. Okay? 10 years later. 1996. We all know what happened in 1996. If you don't know, it changed everything. It changed everything. Am I right?
Yeah.
It was a time when Scott Hall, Kevin Nash decided to run off and go to WCW and show up over there, and they decided to do a curtain call with Shawn Michaels and Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Hunter Hearst Helmsley was supposed to win the King of the Ring. He winds up getting scratched from that card because he went kayfabe. They wind up bumping up Stone Cold Steve Austin to beat Jake the Snake Roberts in the 1996 King of the Ring, and we got the promo that changed the entire world of wrestling.
Yep.
So I want to go to 1996. Okay, this was the locker rooms for Now remember, you guys, WCW has already by this point they've already transferred from NWA into WCW. So this is the rosters for both people. 1996 rosters, WWF roster 41 stars. WCW roster 56. Okay. Do you, John, see? I'm gonna put both of these up again. Okay. This is 1986. Okay. This is 1996. What do you see?
A great difference in numbers.
Not really. Not really. You had 30 in NWA and 56 or 58 in WWE. You had 56 in WCW and then 41 in 1996. So we're only talking about a difference of just a small handful of folks. But here's the thing. That period changed wrestling completely. You went from the take your fucking vitamins and drink your goddamn milk to you thump your Bible and you say your prayers and it didn't get you anywhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? Here, look, I'm wearing a fucking crucifix. Well, here, read that. You know what I mean? That year changed everything, but yet we're only talking about a handful of a few stars. Not much of a difference, right?
Right.
I think you're kind of catching the drift of what this show's all about.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, but here's the thing. We became super fans in that time period. I mean, you went to WrestleMania. What was it,
Yep.
95? 94?
96.
So it was that year. So
Yeah,
you went to WrestleMania that year. I mean, I'm buying Stone Cold T-shirts like it's going out of style. You know, we're everybody around us is wearing wrestling T-shirts. It became cool to be a wrestling fan. I mean, it was actually cool. My uncle watched wrestling. My aunt watched wrestling. Well, my other uncle watched wrestling. My cousins watched it. My friends watched it.
Right.
But I mean, me and John, dude, we were at each other's houses every other day watching these shows. I mean, my mom and dad had a hot box, so every time a pay-per-view would come on, John would be at my house every pay-per-view because I'd get that son of a bitch for free, and then we would watch it. And you know, I mean, every pay-per-view, whether it was WCW, whether it was WWF, it didn't matter. We were watching, and everybody else was too, and that's what changed. You know what I mean? But yet here we are with still a 41-person roster on WWE and 56 people on WCW.
Right.
Right? I mean, WWE has not put out ratings like they have in 1996 to around 2000, I'd say 2003. They've never put out ratings that fucking high. They've never had natural crowd pops that high since that time period. Would you agree, John?
Well, 96 wasn't that hot. I think it was the year afterwards.
Oh, yeah, that's when it started building steam. Well, I mean, because again, then at that point, that's when you start hitting Stone Cold and Bret Hart. Mm-hmm. You know, that feud had just started, right?
Yeah. But guess what else started in 1997?
Oh, DX. Yeah.
DX.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
DX starts,
bigger.
you know, and I mean, yeah, and it now you got a group of guys that all together are just as big as Austin. And then you get The Rock. You know, we got The Rock. The Rock started becoming The Rock instead of Rocky Maivia, the gaper. He was actually becoming The Rock that everybody, you know, the Rudy Poo, pie eating, you know.
You know who had a hand in that?
Candy ass.
It was Farouk. Farouk, when The Rock joined that team of the Nation Domination, Farouk would tell him in the back, hey, do things like this. This is what you're supposed to say. Or say it like this. He actually gave him the know your role line. He told him to use it. And eventually, obviously, The Rock did. I know Farouk also tried to help him.
I still use the know your role sign. So,
and
you know.
I know he also helped another man, or he tried to try to tell him the same thing, but that didn't work. And that man's name was, well, I don't think it matters, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's Ahmed Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, Ahmed had it okay, but he was just a cock knocker. He couldn't get himself off the street, you know. But hold on, Okay, so we've established that, right? All right, this is a big one, you guys. This is a big one right here. Okay, I want to take you guys to 2001. What happened in 2001, John?
The invasion.
Invasion happened. WWF or at this point now it's WWE buys out WCW. But what I want to show you is the numbers of the rosters before the buyout. Okay, so here's the numbers. 2001 rosters for WWE is 67. WCW roster 65. Okay, now for me, that's still a relatively low number. Considering how popular that time period was, it's still a relatively very low number. And we're getting all kinds of characters. Shit, man. I was even into the fucking Ho Train at this point. And that was just the stupidest thing you could ever imagine in wrestling. But, dude, I wanted to watch it. You did too. It may not have been. I mean, it got the guy in the Hall of Fame. But, I mean, at the end of the day, though, I wanted to watch it. I wanted to watch this dude wrestle.
Did you? Did you really?
Well,
or did you want to watch the train?
Look, dude, we even wanted to watch Val Venus, for God's sakes, as awful as he was. You know, I mean, but it made us want to see what was going down. Every single segment was smack dab banging.
And I'll tell you why WCW had that high roster, even at that time. Because most of them weren't signed to WCW. They were signed through AOL. Time Warner AOL.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
So,
I mean, a lot of those guys at that time were signed in for the fucking, just to be backers of the NWO. You know, I mean, a lot of those guys weren't necessarily stars.
By 2001, they were long gone. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you had other groups now, but...
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand that. I mean, you had your Goldberg still, and you know, and all that stuff. But I mean, a lot of the guys that were part of that roster just weren't. They weren't game changers anymore. You know, because a lot of people by 2001 had moved over to Raw. But here's the thing.
You mean Disco Inferno wasn't a game changer?
Huh?
You mean the Disco Inferno wasn't a game changer?
Not at all. I mean, WWE had by this point taken on. They had already taken on guys like Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho. You know, all of these huge stars that just became absolute legends. Obviously, Chris Benoit doesn't get the credit that he deserves. I think Chris Benoit deserves a lot of credit because he was a hell of a fucking showman. You know, and this and that. But I want to give you something that will blow your mind, John. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
Okay, this is 2002. Obviously, by this point, WCW has been fucking dismantled. It's gone. It's over. The invasion's over. None of that shit is even a part of the fucking picture anymore. Okay? So, let me remind you. WWE roster 67. Okay? WCW roster 65. Okay? That's 102 stars. Okay? Now, the very next year, in 2002, the WWE roster 61. Now, that to me is mind-blowing. I mean, and just to let you guys know, these numbers that I got, these aren't just picked out of my ass. They're legitimately researched. These are all numbers that shoot at the beginning of the year. So most of these numbers would have been at the road to WrestleMania. Right? So what do you think about that number? Because it's still a low number. It's not a high number.
They went through a lot of cuts that year. They did. You know, because the whole invasion angle was over. And so people got let go because they really weren't, like as you would say, game changers, or they would be mess ups in the back, and so WWE would just let them go. I mean, that's why that their numbers kind of stayed like that. They just kind of chose the big stars from WCW to stay on with the regular stars from WWE, and they just ended with those guys.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say Chavo was a big star because he wasn't, but I mean, they used him.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Okay, so let me jump to 2019. Okay? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, 2019 rosters. This is for AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan. AEW's roster right now is sitting at 49 stars. Ring of Honor's rosters right now are sitting at 43. New Japan Wrestling rosters are sitting at 62. Okay? Now, a point that I really want to make here, that I really want to take home here, is that right now there is a vast majority of people talking about those specific 3 promotions. And they're talking about them in very high light. Everybody from Sam Roberts to you name it, they're all talking about those 3 promotions and just raving about the people that are down there in those promotions. But when you get up into the WWE roster, all they're talking about are the problems and the drama and the issues and the people that are unhappy and just the pure negativity towards the WWE brand. I would like to take this moment, John, to peel your fucking brain out of your head. Are you ready?
Yes, go ahead.
This is the current. This is without NXT. Okay?
Okay.
This is the current WWE roster right here. 145 people. These are just stars. I'm not even talking about NXT. This is SmackDown, Raw. I mean, 205 Live. 205 Live only has like 9 people in it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's not too many people in there.
Okay, so you got that 145 people. Now, here, let me do this, okay? I'm going to do this for you, John, just because I think you would appreciate the fact this right here is the 2019 roster continued with NXT, 40 more people in NXT. Here, if that's not enough, okay? WWE's 2019 roster total right now, as we sit, is 185 people.
Yeah, that's a lot, dude. I mean, that's quite a bit.
I mean, 108. Look at that number, you guys. 185 people. Okay, let me backtrack just a little bit. This right here is just the main roster alone. 145 fucking superstars. And you want to know, and everybody wants to sit around with their thumb up their butt and say, oh, well, they've got problems. No shit. Okay, now, hold on. I'm not done. 1986. That is 1986. 2019. Let that sink in. Let that sink in just a little bit. Let that sink in. And maybe something will start to click in your mind about where I'm getting at with this whole thing. I'm not trying to compare marbles to marbles here in terms of WWE, WCW. I'm not trying to do any of that. All I'm telling you guys is that something here is a key. There has to be a key to success. WCW at one point was considered the top promotion. Whether we like to admit it or not, WCW was considered the top promotion. Okay? So, when you go back to 1996, they were a top promotion with 56 people. WWF, 2 years later, starts taking them over with around 40 to 50 stars. Now, I will say this, John. I will say this in all fairness. In 1999, WCW was at its biggest roster in history, and it was 105. But I need to make it a note that was 1999. Okay? 2 years later, they were in the fucking hole. Why? Because they had too many fucking people. And that really was the fucking problem. The NWO dragged down the fucking WCW because they had 80 goddamn people in the NWO attacking one schmuck that was still a part of WCW.
Right.
And everybody was sick of it. Because it was no longer a storyline, it was an NWO show. When people wanted to see what they were just getting 5 years ago, the Goldberg story. The unstoppable bald man Goldberg was one of the biggest storylines, and he wasn't even connected to just one individual star. It was just him alone. He was the story. And that was one of the biggest stories of like 4 years. Was right. Bill Goldberg. But here's the thing. It wasn't Bill Goldberg and 30,000 people. The NWO fucking ate up Bill Goldberg.
Right.
Because they fucked him out of the title because they all ganged up on him. Just like they did every other fucking star. And then WWE pulls out fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin out of their ass. And I was like, oh, well, we got another bald guy to cheer. This guy's even better. He gives middle fingers, drinks beer, and fucks with people. We like that shit. We're going over there. You know what I mean? So it's like... But at the same time, though, okay, WCW had a super successful cruiserweight division. It was booming. It was a great division. They had them at the very beginning of each show. It was going great, but they only had maybe like 6 or 7, 8 and 9 of those guys, you know, including Eddie Guerrero. Okay, and it wasn't that many. It wasn't that many folks. They didn't have to make a whole fucking division, like, you know, like a whole promotion based around it. The cruiserweight division. It was just a small little deal that they did every other week, and it built up excitement. WWE tried to copy that shit, and they failed miserably at it. They're still failing miserably at it.
Right.
But but the real topic here, John, is why is there so many people? 185 people in one fucking promotion alone. Okay? You still got... I'm going to do the math for y'all right now. Okay? Let me take a minute here. Let me do this math. Okay? 339 people within 4 promotions. 339 people. And most of those people are really good performers. Really good performers. I mean, am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
Why is there so many people?
I don't know. You tell me.
Is your mind fucked yet?
Huh?
Right? Because now I'm talking numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the key is in the numbers. And I'm going to tell you why there's so many people. Because they were fans. There was more fans. Because if we go back to 1986, okay, most of these people, minus some of these NWA cats, okay, a lot of these NWA cats were into wrestling before they got into it. Guys like Ric Flair, you think that fucking character, you think he thought of that character? Fuck no, he stole that character. And he turned it into something that, he turned that character into something that nobody can recreate ever again. Ric Flair did that. But a lot of these guys that were on that WWE roster, or that WWF roster in 1986, they weren't fans of wrestling until they became wrestlers. That's where all the storylines came from. The bullshit from the Fabulous Freebirds, those guys were into wrestling. Those guys were real pro wrestling fans. But at the end of the day, a lot of the guys that we fell in love with, that we grew up idolizing, they weren't wrestling fans. They were in it for the money.
That was it. That was pretty much it.
And they became global icons. For guys like
those
me,
guys, we wouldn't have had the Shawns, the Austins, any of those guys. We
by no means.
Seen any of them. So
by no means, there's no way we would have had those guys without the Hulk Hogan's and and such and such. There's no fucking way.
And Roddy Piper's. What do you think The Rock got his mic skills from? It's from Roddy Piper. Oh
God! Everybody had to take something. People have been trying to copy Roddy Piper for the last 20 fucking years, 30 years. Right. Nobody's gonna copy Roddy Piper. But here's the thing, man. They weren't fans. But they happened to become icons. Global icons. People that you instantly recognize. Fuck me, man. They're getting ready to do a Legends show on Monday. Mm-hmm. Why? Because those are the people that changed the game. Hulk Hogan is going to be there. Ric Flair is going to be there. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Those are three people that we have named several times in this entire show. And they're all going to be there. Why? Because they changed the game.
Right.
And they created every single person. The Finn Balor's. Okay? The Bobby Lashley's. The Braun Strowman's. Okay? The Aleister Blacks. The Ricochets. The Miz's.
Right.
The list goes on. I can't even say like Rey Mysterio because he was a part of that era that changed everything.
Right.
But the all the people, the Samoa Joes, the Bubba Ray Dudleys, all those, well, I mean, maybe not Bubba Ray, but guys like that are all thanks to this roster right here. So they changed not only the past, changed the future. And that's the title of the show. Wrestling's future lies in wrestling's past. And to me, one of the biggest flaws in wrestling, and I know I'm taking up a lot of talk time, but to me, one of the keys of wrestling is being able to tell a story. But you can't tell a story if you never get to your other people. And when you got a fucking number like this, man, that's a scary number to me.
There's bound to be people that's going to be really upset because they're not being used or not being used like the way that they want to be.
Right.
So they go have temper tantrums like, what's their face?
Well, I mean, is it really a temper tantrum or is it a legitimate situation? Because, I mean, I could put in more numbers. If you want, I could throw out more numbers. but I think I got enough numbers up there as it is.
But
You
my
can talk
point
about
is-
the amount of women in the division, in the women's division. You can talk about the amount of men in this division, the amount of tag teams in this division, and and the list goes on and on and on. I don't want to flood people with numbers, but I mean, it's not. At this point, when I start seeing numbers like that, and then compare to the numbers that, not just the amount of people that was on the roster back in the day, but the numbers they were putting on TV, the numbers dude, I would honestly believe that Stone Cold Steve Austin sold more fucking swag between the time of 1997 and 2000 than WWE has probably fucking sold in the last two or 3 years combined.
Well, let's think
That could
about
be argued quite a bit, and I'd love to be able to find those stats. I don't think I'll ever.
If you
be able
talk
to
about
find them.
any one wrestler, no. But but you have those Roman Reigns. You have the Daniel Bryans who drew. Right now, you have Kofi Kingston, who's drawing a lot of money. You know.
but you know what the problem with Kofi Kingston is? He's going to be gone tomorrow. I mean, we're already talking about him losing the title here pretty soon. What else goes with that? Everything,
Right.
all of your TV time. You go to the back of the line. You go to the back of 185 fucking people. Or if you just want to talk about the main roster, you go to the back of 145 folks, unless you're super mainstream. Kofi Kingston is great. He got his opportunity, but he's not mainstream. He's not going to be the face of the company. Not after all the 11 years in the business, at least in this business.
Well, I mean, look at the Bret Harts and the Shawn Michaels. They took them years to get ahead. To be the face of the company.
Well, I mean, Shawn Michaels never really was the face of the company. Neither was Bret Hart. I mean, let's be honest.
So in 95, 96, who was the face? They didn't have anyone.
I really don't think they had
except for
one because everybody was getting their fair share of time. I mean, I wanted to see Shawn Michaels just as bad as I wanted to see Bret Hart. I didn't want to see one over the other, so for say, you know what I mean? I don't believe that. I really don't believe that there was a true face at that point, at that moment. And to be honest, I mean, you had your Hulk Hogan, by far was the face of the company in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He really was. Andre the Giant, probably early 80s. I mean, he was more of a spectacle. He was a fucking circus act. Okay? Everybody wanted to see the fucking bearded woman, and he was the bearded woman of fucking WWF. Okay? Because I'm going to say this right now, and John knows how I feel about this. I don't think fucking Andre the Giant was worth a shit. I think he was a big, fat, fucking tall sumbitch that weighed fucking way too goddamn much and fucking died at a young age. And everybody was a fan of fucking, that didn't know. Now, people that knew Andre the Giant, they were big fans of him because they knew him and they were friends. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about guys like me and you. We never met the man. He was
I heard he was quite a dick anyway.
Well, and I've actually heard stories like that as well, that he was kind of a cock knocker. But beyond that, all he was a circus. He was huge. People wanted to see that shit because people like freaks.
Right.
It's sad to say. I'm not trying to bring down Andre the Giant. I'm not trying to put him down or put down his legacy. I mean, god damn it. Don't think bad on me about that. But fuck, let's tell it how it is here. Let's tell the truth here for a minute. But that circus act put butts in the seat because he was undefeated forever.
Right.
You know what I mean? And him and Hogan had probably one of the most iconic matches of all time. Easy top 5, top 7 maybe? I don't know.
That was probably one of the best matches of Hogan's career. And
Probably.
Hogan doesn't, he never really had that.
It really was kind of a passing of the torch, wouldn't you say?
It was. It definitely was.
You know, I mean, and Hogan became the real true face of WWF. In fact, I'm going to go as far as saying he became the true face of pro wrestling, period.
Right.
There, to this day, there's only one man that even came close to his legitness as a face, and that was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I'm going to say this as well. The Rock was right fucking behind Austin. Right behind him.
You know, I like The Rock better as a heel. I thought he was a lot funnier, a lot more, he had a lot more attitude than as he did as
Well,
face.
I mean, but you know what they say about that is that they say when you become a heel, it's like a huge weight's lifted off of your shoulders because
right.
your range of what you can do is so much greater. And that's usually when you see a great star come up, and so,
I bet you. I wonder what Vince says. You know what? I want you to do this, and then some other guys help you out. You know what, man? Just go out there, and be a dick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I would. I mean, I would agree with that. I could totally see Vince McMahon just say, "Look, go out there and be an asshole, will you?" And
yeah,
well, yeah. I just got to imitate you.
Right.
I mean, like for me, right? Like there's a story that I heard Austin tell just recently. He actually said it on his podcast. If you guys don't, I normally don't give shout outs to people on my show here, but because this is the Guerrilla Press and everybody else can go suck one. Joe Cronin. So I think that well, okay, so let me go back. So Austin once said that his true want when he started the Stone Cold character was that he wanted to be a heel. He wanted to be a heel because it was easier. Because he had the voice, he had the look, he had the charisma for a heel. He said he desperately wanted to be a heel. And at the time when he went to the Bret Hart match, something happened. Blood poured all out of his face. He didn't tap out. He passes out. And the crowd goes berserk for him. It actually made Bret look like the bad guy and Austin as the good guy. But it wasn't. It was the only what Austin was trying to portray was that he was a no give up bastard. He wasn't going to give up. He was going to fight through the pain no matter what. Cuz he's a fighting son of a bitch. That's the way it was. And then all of a sudden things happen. Things change. He comes out the next day and people are cheering him.
I think they did that, or one, because people got tired of Bret because he had this whiny character.
Bret was always an asshole too.
Of how he was always, that's how he was anyway. He always whined about everything. But when that character came about in late '96, early '97, people got tired of him throwing temper tantrums on TV, and because he lost the Rumble, he lost the Fatal 4-Way the month prior or after, excuse me. Then, or no, he won that, but lost the title to Sid the next night after the pay-per-view in February. And then he whined and cried, and everyone got tired of it. But then here comes this big tough guy in Austin, and as you said, just a fighter, no give up. He's not gonna take it, and people like that in him because he was just a badass. That's what the crowd was turning to. We're badasses, Not the wrestlers anymore. They want to see the street fighters. They want to see the ones with the big mouths.
I
the
agree.
Wrestlers.
Yeah, I agree. And my big thing with with this numbers game here is that if in 2001 WWE would have taken on WCW's roster completely, they would have had over 130 fucking people.
Right.
If it wasn't for the fact that in 1996, WWF and WCW were separate, look at all those stars that would have been available on the table for WWF to take.
Right.
Okay, that's over 100 people. I think the big thing of what a lot of people are missing at this point is a WWE AEW war. And I don't believe that an AEW WWE war is actually a bad thing. I don't think it's
happen.
I think it has to happen. I think it has to happen because this number needs to get down. What I am proposing to all of our fans of the Guerrilla Press is that WWE needs to take half those fucking stars and fire them all. Take all the people you don't like. Every asshole in that fucking roster that you don't like. Keep Bray Wyatt. Keep Finn Balor. Keep AJ Styles. Keep the Usos. Keep blah, blah, blah. Build up that roster till you get around 60 to 70 people. And the rest of the people that didn't make that list, fire them. Get them the fuck out of here. Send them to AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan.
And I don't know why Vince doesn't want to do that, honestly.
Well, I mean he wants
scared,
to keep he wants to keep everybody to himself. Eric Rowan should have been fired months ago, and they should have put,
someone else,
Luke Harper in there, and Luke Harper is just sitting on his ass. Look, if you're not going to use him, move him on down the line. Get him the fuck out of here. Put him on another goddamn roster somewhere else, because Luke Harper's still on their roster. He's number 145 on the 145 list. Get him out of here. Drop that list to around 70 fucking people. What do you have at that point? You have every one of your best storytellers ready to go every fucking night. In that perfect cycle that you've built this beautiful fucking wrestling business up, and you're going to win again. That's what it's going to take. Because this number right here, Jesus Christ. Now, here's something else too, John. Another point I wanted to make, okay? NXT right now is by far probably the most popular WWE promotion. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
It's the hottest thing running. Look at this number. 40.
Right. Big difference.
40 people. Compared to the WWE main roster, 145. It is fucking insane. What is that? 3-4 times?
About.
But yet NXT right now is the most popular promotion in WWE, and they only have 40 people. And it's true. They're putting on some of the best stories, the best matches. I mean, me and John were sitting there watching one of these matches go down with Velveteen Dream and Tyler Breeze, and that was a freaking killer goddamn match. Jesus Christ. That was a great match, and it was a great story.
It was. It was, fulfilled what it needed to fulfill. Great match, great story. But I wouldn't mind seeing those two go at it again.
Well, more importantly, that both of these guys could put on a hell of a show with somebody else too.
Yeah, they can.
You know what I mean? You want to see them again in another match. You want to see this whole thing go down. You want to see that cycle. You know what I mean? That whole cycle of stars going up against somebody else, creating a new storyline, this and that, boom, 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 tell a story, make it happen. At the end of the pay-per-view, go to something new. Now you're still getting these same people that you fall in love with, but it's a whole nother fucking storyline. It's a whole nother scenario, and that's what built WWE in 1996. That's what sold people in 1996. That's what created the Attitude Era. And now they're falling back onto the Attitude Era because they know it works, but at the same time, it's like, fuck me, man. We already got a whole freaking decade of the Attitude Era. You better do it justice.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I mean, and you're not going to do it with 145 people. I'm sorry. Now, note, at least 30 of those people are women.
Right.
Okay, so you're going to have to figure something out because you're bouncing around too much TV fucking time to one or two fucking people. But at the same time, you know, the big difference between in 1996 as well was that championship meant everything. It meant everything to these guys. They meant something. Now it's all bullshit. Every single match was based around that fucking belt, some way or another. Either it was leading up to that belt, or they were building up characters to fight for that belt, whatever, you know. And now it's not like that. And the fucking matches that are not title matches are pointless. They're pointless to watch because they lead to nowhere.
Well, I mean, what it's supposed to lead to is a future title match and this and that. But the titles don't mean anything, like you said. That I'm going to agree with you on. I mean, I remember when the Intercontinental title was the biggest thing besides the world title. Now the IC title doesn't mean shit.
It don't mean nothing. It's knocked all the way down to the U.S. title.
Right, and even then, that's not worth anything. You know, I don't know. But I do agree with you on this show, which you said more like I would. You know, the numbers, it's way too much. You know, 185 people. I mean, come on, guys. Seriously.
And that's not a number I made up either. That is you guys, anybody out there in the YouTube world, anybody following this show, you're more than happy to go and check it out yourself. I physically hand counted every single one and made sure that they were still on the roster. And I swear you on my life that's the number. Huh?
How much time do you have on your hands?
Dude, yeah. But I mean, you know, I as far as like the WCW, WWE, like the old school stuff, the NWA and all that stuff, I've actually been able to get my hands on actual archives. I could tell you everybody by name that were on those rosters. I have all these archives now. I pulled all these numbers.
Don't impress me. Pull them up.
Yeah, you know. So it's like I can honestly tell you guys right now that you know, as I was going through the years. Okay, all the way up to 1999. Even in 1999, WWE or WWF at the time, when they still had Andre the Giant, 51 people. That was how many people was in WWF in 1989. I'm sorry, 1989, 51 people for WWF, and it was booming. It was huge. You know, by then, WWF was mainstream. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. No, by then, I definitely would agree.
I mean, they were on networks. They were on 3 times a week, you guys. I mean, that was back when Superstars and Main Event was the shit. You know, I mean, because they carried on storylines through those shows. Now those shows are monkey shit. Even in the Attitude era, those shows were monkey crap because it was all about the nighttime lineup, the Monday and Tuesday night lineups, or Thursday. I think it was Thursday night, right? Monday and Thursday at the time.
Yeah.
You know, so Monday and Thursday night, and then you had fucking Thunder and Nitro going on. You know, it was all about that nighttime. Whereas, like, I think it was Main Event. I believe either Main Event. Yeah, it was Main Event was on Saturdays while cartoons were playing.
No, that was Superstars.
Or Superstars. Thank you. So yeah, I knew it was one of the two. One of the two. But Superstars played while cartoons was playing on freaking Saturday mornings. And guess what? We were watching.
Yeah.
We were watching. So, I mean, dude, this has to be the key to the problem. Right here. This is the key. Because nobody can get comfortable. Nobody can get comfortable. Nobody has a secured spot. Because they don't know where they're going to be at. 1 minute, they're the fucking WWE champion. The next minute, you don't see them again for fucking a year.
Right.
And if you do, they're jobbing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're jobbing. This is a WWE champion. And he's a jobber?
Right.
Fuck, you would have never seen that shit in the 80s.
No.
Never seen that in the 80s. Ever. If this guy was a champion, he was a big fucking... How many times have you heard, whoo, I'm Ric Flair. I'm 16-time world heavyweight champion, whoo, of the world. Now you hear, there's John Cena. He's lost the belt 16 fucking times.
Right.
I'm gonna make him fucking job and lose his ass in fucking 3 seconds to fucking Brock fucking Lesnar. And then I'm gonna let Brock Lesnar sit at home for fucking half a year.
Oh, remember a couple years ago versus The Undertaker? God, that was literally a horrible build-up, a horrible match.
It was just there was no passion in it. There was no storytelling. There was nothing. I mean, think about that for a minute, okay? John Cena, 16-time world champion. Ric Flair, 16-time world champion. Woo! 16-time! John Cena. You don't hear anything. You know why? Because John Cena's a fucking jobber. Ric Flair has never jobbed in his life. Every fucking match that Ric Flair was a part of meant something. It meant something, not just to his career, but to the person that he's losing to. It meant something to them. Shawn Michaels owes that man a fucking debt of gratitude because he was the one that retired Ric Flair.
Mm.
But those losses meant something to him because those were times that he was able to get the title again. You know what I mean? And become a champion, that he can get back on the horse and become a champion again. You never see him fucking jobbing 80,000 times or doing joke, you know, fuck, what was it? Jinder Mahal.
Yeah.
Jinder Mahal is a fucking beast. And he's great in the ring. And they give him a shithead fucking character with shithead people to hang around. And now Jinder Mahal's a goddamn jobber. I haven't seen that Joker win a fucking match in 2 years. He's a world champion.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that you're going to put him in the backstring for guys like, God, I don't even know, like fucking Zack Ryder? You're going to put Jinder Mahal behind fucking Dolph Ziggler?
Well, come on. No, Dolph, that's a different story. I think Dolph is much better speaker, much better storyteller, you know, than Jinder Mahal. I mean,
when did Dolph Ziggler win the world championship?
Actually, a couple times. So
when did he win it? When it wasn't Money in the Bank?
Never when it wasn't Money in the Bank.
He's never won it when it wasn't Money in the Bank. Guess what? Jinder Mahal did.
Right. Yeah.
Okay?
That's true.
So Jinder Mahal didn't win it in a bullshit fashion. He beat the motherfucker.
Yeah.
And that guy is now a fucking jobber, and we haven't seen him. We've seen him running around trying to hump fucking R-Truth's leg for the past couple of weeks, trying to win a fucking 24/7 title. Count to three. Count to three.
Right.
I'm gonna chihuahua hump this guy's leg until you count to three.
Right.
You want to know where your problem is? You got too many goddamn people. That's why EC3 is doing a bit drinking a fucking cup of coffee, not giving 2 fucking squirts of piss about what's happening around him. That's why you have that. Because EC3 is a phenomenal fucking performer in the ring. He looks like a dork. I'll say that. He does look like a dork. I don't expect anything. I knew as soon as they showed him tightening his butt cheeks in his stupid little shorts that he wasn't going to work out in WWE. However, EC3 is a great performer.
Great talent.
He's a fantastic performer inside the ring. He's amazing. And you know what? He's sitting on a fucking chair drinking a coffee, not even in fucking character, when he's supposed to be in character. He doesn't give a shit. What the fuck is he even there for? And he's thinking the same thing. I could be in AEW or Ring of Honor right now being the top fucking star.
Right.
I mean, that's what happened to fucking Drew McIntyre. Right. They were dicking him around enough, and finally they fucking fired him, and he went to TNA. That was a company that I was going to put on here, but TNA sucks, and I didn't want to give him any credit. So, Impact now. But he goes to Impact, becomes a top star, comes back to fucking WWE, and they're jerking his dick. They're not doing anything with him.
Yeah, they stopped his push. They were pushing him.
They were pushing him, and he's lost twice in a row now, by the way.
And you know what? If they continue with this Undertaker match at SummerSlam, he does be number 3. Yeah. He'll be number 3.
Yeah, I mean, again, you guys out there in YouTube, let us know in the comments below if we might be onto something here, because I really believe that the truth is in the numbers. John, let me ask you something, okay? Now that we've gotten through the show, and you've gotten to kind of see what I've laid out here on the table, I want to hear your thoughts.
My thoughts on what?
Mainly, I want to hear what you think about this. Does this change things around a little bit in terms of your mind of why you think things are the way they are today? Does it add something to it? What's going through your mind right now?
You mean about the company and the numbers?
Well, yeah, just everything that we got done talking about here for the last hour and 17 minutes.
Okay. No, actually, I really never put it into thought about the numbers, but I mean that it definitely makes a lot of sense, and especially since you put it out there, God, 185 people—that's ridiculous. And like you said, like what you said earlier on in the show, is WCW did that, and that was their demise. And a lot of things that WWE is doing is what
105 people in 1999,
and that's what WCW did, and then some, because now they're almost 100 more people above that. So that's ridiculous. It really is, and I feel bad for guys like Jinder and EC3 and whoever else that they just brought up from Impact Wrestling, and they're not doing anything with them, So. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but I mean, I think you hit it dead on tonight when you brought that fact up.
Well, I definitely appreciate that. That's, for sure. I mean, it's something I haven't heard. I haven't heard anybody speaking of this topic. They're mainly bitching with no solution. And to fix a problem, you got to know where the problem lies. And, this is something that's been on my mind for a while. I knew they had a lot of people on there, but until I started doing this research and really trying to narrow it down and figure out the exact same numbers, or the exact numbers that they had, it blew my mind. It blew my mind. But the thing about it is again, in 1986, these guys weren't necessarily fans. In 2019, these guys were all fans.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think these numbers are so high is because of the fact that they created fans. They created fanboys. They created people that wanted to actually be a part of wrestling because they've lived wrestling. Every single one of them, in every fucking interview when they're asked what their favorite matches are, they're always mentioning Ricky Steamboat and Macho Man, Hulk Hogan picking up Andre the Giant, and you know, Roddy Piper smacking a coconut. You know, I mean, it's just like.
But here's my question now, because now all these stars that are wrestling now, they weren't really around. They were more around towards the Attitude Era. I'm wondering why they're not saying, you know what, Austin Bret Hart, Austin Michaels, Austin Rock feud. They're not saying that Triple H Rock feud. You know, what I mean, they're just mentioning.
Well, I mean, here's the big thing though. What you're mentioning is feuds. What a lot of these guys specifically are mentioning is matches. Not necessarily feuds. I mean, here's the thing. How many times did Hulk Hogan face Andre the Giant? From
a bunch of times.
I'm talking about from the period, not the old period when they weren't necessarily on TV. I'm talking about from the Vince McMahon Jr. days and up. How many mainstream matches did he have with Andre the Giant that were WrestleMania-esque moments?
They had 3. Although the last one was at WrestleMania 4, and that was nowhere near WrestleMania 3.
Right.
I don't think people don't remember that, and they shouldn't. But the other match, the second match that they had, was on Saturday Night Main Event, February of 1988, which led up to that tournament of WrestleMania 4, is when they did the twin referee with the Hebners, and $1 Million Man came out, paid Andre, and took the belt from him. That was a memorable match, or moment at least.
The moment, but where I'm getting at is this: how many matches did The Rock and Triple H have?
Countless.
Exactly, and for me personally, I mean, I can't say that either because I know an exact moment that always sticks out in my mind as one of my favorite Rock and Triple H moments, and that's when they go back and they're mimicking each other. That shit was a funny ass segment, but I'm gonna also be honest with you. Even as a fan, I cannot tell you a specific match that stands out in my mind when it comes to The Rock and Triple H, because there was ungodly amounts of them, and so they all mesh together. Like Bret Hart Austin sticks out. I've heard Bret Hart Austin in a lot of people's interviews, but that wasn't necessarily the match. They couldn't tell you what happened in the match, but every one of them can tell you what happened at the end.
Yeah.
And a lot of that had part to do with fucking JR.
Right.
You know, I think, was it JR or was it McMahon?
It was McMahon.
Vince. It was Vince. Yeah, it was Vince. So, I mean, and a lot of people don't know, Vince was actually a really good announcer. He was actually not bad. That was actually his job as it was an announcer when he worked for his father.
Right.
And he just continued that because he didn't want a lot of people outside of the business to know that he actually owned WWF. You know, he wanted to be a character, but, you know, he didn't want to stand out as the owner, but beyond that, these, you know, a lot went into play for those. I mean, think about it. Who was ringside doing the announcing for Hogan and Andre?
Gorilla and Jesse Ventura.
Great announcers. Jesse Ventura, one of the best sellers in terms of microphone. You know, could tell a great story on the mic. He had a voice for it. And of course, Gorilla Monsoon. Jesus Christ! If you guys don't know who Gorilla Monsoon is, your balls haven't dropped yet, and I'm sorry. But I think those guys play a part. All that stuff plays a part. So I'm going to say this right now. We're not going to get a sell like Vince McMahon would as an announcer, like Gorilla Monsoon would as an announcer, like Bobby the Brain Heenan would as an announcer.
No, you know why? Because
JR and King, because we've got the likes of Michael fucking Cole.
I was just going to say that. And Renee Young and the other doofus on SmackDown.
Yeah, we're not going to get these guys moved over or get over with the people at home because these guys are always fucking up.
Cole number one fuck up, I swear.
Fuck, man, I like JBL better than I do fucking Cole. And JBL was constantly riding Cole's ass for fucking up. And now we got Corey Graves, who's an actual wrestler, a shithead wrestler, but he was a wrestler, and has a real passion for the business, and he's always riding Cole's ass and fixing his fuck-ups, even though he had one the other day. But you know what? That's fucking rare out of him, and I'm going to give him credit. I'm going to give that man credit because he does play a really good heel as far as an announcer goes, and at the same time, he's still fixing fucking Cole's fuck-ups. We can't get people over anymore. Yeah. Because here's the other thing. Michael Cole, why does he always fuck up? Because it's always somebody new that he's having to announce. Because there's always somebody new. It's never the same circle of 50, 60 guys. It's 145 main roster people that he has to announce for.
Right.
So my question to you is, do you possibly think that this is one of the biggest of the many keys that is wrong with WWE?
Yes, absolutely. I definitely do.
And I believe, after putting together all of these numbers, that because AEW can't take on everybody. They can't take on the world. I think it would be foolish for them to do so. I think they're better off with the 49 stars that they have signed right now and just tell everybody else the doors are closed. Until we get somebody injured or somebody falls out of contract and decides to go with somebody else, the door's closed. I mean, they did fuck up and get Enzo Amore, but whatever. Doesn't matter. And Big Cass has fucking seizures, so he ain't going to be around much longer. And I'm not making fun of Big Cass for having seizures. That is a true fact. That did there. If some of you don't know, that one of the promotions that Big Cass was at after he got fired from WWE, Big Cass actually passed out hit face first on the fucking hard floor while he was doing autographs right after a promotion, and he literally had a fucking seizure right there on the fucking spot. Scary fucking moment. Besides that point, I thought this show would really pique your interest in terms of where we think we need to go. And I truly believe, just like the title says, that wrestling's future lies in wrestling's past.
Well, there you go.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I mean, now we have more fans than we've ever had in the history of pro wrestling, period. This dates all the way back to the 1920s. Because I believe, I don't know how fucking old pro wrestling is. I know it's older than shit. It's been around forever.
Like in 1898.
Yeah, okay, so there's
but
never...
back then, wrestling was actually wrestling. It wasn't what it is today.
I agree with that. Well, I mean, and people like to beat the fuck out of each other. That was a pretty pissed off time period.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't even have electricity, for God's sakes. I mean, they still had to walk. They still had to walk everywhere and pick up horse shit. It was awful. So,
Right.
so yeah, and they had
a sad thing. It's the truth.
Yeah, you know. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we've never had more fans of pro wrestling than we do now. We've never had more fans in pro wrestling than, in the 90s. We had more fans than we did back in the 80s. That's the reason why there's so many available people. They don't have to go to bars and pick up bouncers anymore. They don't have to go to the local gym rats and say, dude, you're a big motherfucker. You look like you can pretend to hit somebody quite nicely. They don't have to go to those places anymore and pull people.
You know why? Because they had mistakes. They picked up people like Paul Roma.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that everybody that they picked was a fucking, superstar. Some of them were fucking sour apples, to say the least.
Tugboats. Yeah,
well, I mean, you got to have your fatties, your shockers, But I mean, look, you got guys, you got. I mean,
your Virgils.
Oh Jesus, that guy's a toy.
Yeah.
I mean, so
I could go on. I could go on, dude.
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, look. We will always have that jobber. You know what I mean? We'll always have those type of guys, but we got to have them. You got to have guys like Virgil. You got to have dweebs. You got to have hornswoggles. I mean, it's just there has to be somebody that's going to take the fall every fucking time. But now, I mean, how many wrestlers can you honestly think of right now that have basically built their own wrestling school? Booker T comes to mind.
Yeah, he does.
I know Brett still has a school going up in Canada.
Yeah.
There are several. I know. Hell, even fucking Albert. He's got a wrestling school, and at the same time, he's one of the top trainers at the compound for WWE.
Right.
There's several indie guys that have wrestling schools. I mean, fuck, dude. There's damn near a wrestling school in every state. And in some states, they're damn near in every big city.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I mean, at the end of the day, now it is not difficult to get into wrestling. It's not. It's not difficult at all. You just have to be willing to take a bump and not be afraid to fucking bust your ass. You're not going to go in there and look like me. I mean, fuck, I'm 240 pounds, but I'm 240 pounds of the wrong reasons. I mean, fuck, there's a reason why I watch wrestling on the couch, and I'm not a part of it. You're not shit, man. Just walking down the fucking ramp would be enough for me. Fuck, I quit. Count my ass out. Son of a bitch. That was a long fucking walk. Yeah. I mean, it's just, at the end of the day, it's not a difficult thing. And that's why we have so many people available. That's why these numbers are so fucking high, because they can't stop. Goddamn, you're good. Fuck, you're awesome. Holy crap, you're a high flyer. Damn, look at you go. Next thing you know, I'm going to hire you all. Next thing you know, you got 185 fucking people. They're all the same fucking, popcorn fart. You know what I mean? They're a whole fucking bag of popcorn farts, and you're just like, I like you, fuck it, I'll just buy the whole bag. That's the way I kind of feel about it. And so, again, you guys, I'm going to run this to you one more time. 1986 rosters, 58 and 30. WWE's roster today, 185. And that's with an addition of these rosters from these major companies that are still going on today. I'm going to let you guys stew on that. And I'm going to thank you guys for coming to the Gorilla Press and listening to us jabberjaw about what we believe is the real, true problem of WWE. John, any last thoughts and words you want to give everybody out there in our Gorilla world?
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That's it.
Thank you for having me.
That's all you got. After almost almost a month of hiatus here, that's all you got for us.
Well, hopefully I'll come back sometime soon, and
I hope so too, man, because I really enjoy having you on here.
Well, I enjoyed being on here and everything.
Yeah, it's not the same without my buddy, But anyway, you guys.
Of course not. I mean, look, it's me. Of course it's not.
So you guys, thank you guys so much for coming to the Gorilla Press today. I really do appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe, leave comments, tell us what you think about this show. If you want to see more like this, let me know. I will do my best to start building up some proper shows for all of us. I want to give a huge shout out to my buddy John. John, thank you so much for coming. And you guys have a great night. You take care. We'll see you next time.